Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official NFL picks and predictions for week number 2, where I predict the final score of every NFL game. And we begin on a Thursday night football. We've got Philadelphia sitting -7 against the Minnesota team who just had a really bad loss at home to the Bucs. I do think Minnesota's gonna be in this game. Philadelphia was -7.5. It's already been bet down to 7. This is your typical primetime, solid early season game. Kirk Cousins threw for like 280 in the first half. We know this Minnesota team, they play everyone close, so I do have Philadelphia winning. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Minnesota won. I mean, Philadelphia at this point, they're already 1-0. They're in a solid position. They had a decent week 1 win. Minnesota, you fall to 0-2. It is a brutal trek to the playoffs, so they're going to be a lot more desperate. They will play this game close, 27-24, a little bit maybe higher scoring for NFL action, but Philadelphia gets the win at home. Moving to the 1 o'clock window, you've got Buffalo coming off that brutal loss. They lost to Zach Wilson, Josh Allen, a few too many turnovers. This is a 1 o'clock game. You've got the Raiders coming West Coast to East Coast. Big win last week against Denver. I don't think it's going to continue. I've got Buffalo. Not exactly what the spread is going to be. It was -10. I'm guessing it's going to drop a little bit considering Buffalo's week 1 performance, but I like them to bounce back at home in a big way against a Raiders team in a tough spot. Again, the West Coast to East Coast. They're already 1-0. I have Buffalo winning that one. We've got a division matchup here. It is Baltimore sitting at 1-0, but dealing with all of those injuries. They will be traveling to Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, even after their horrific performance, Joe Burrow, 82 passing yards in 31 attempts. That's one of the craziest stats you'll see. Cincinnati sitting -3.5. And to me, this seems almost too obvious. Like, Cincinnati's going to get back on track this game. Burrow's going to improve his stats. Jamar Chase goes over 100. T. Higgins catches a touchdown. And all the rest. I would love to get it at -3, but -3.5, I still think Cincinnati covers that. There is a big trend on teams that lost by double digits in week 1 covering spreads in week 2, and Cincinnati would obviously fall into that criteria. Next, you have Kansas City coming off that Thursday night home loss, traveling to Jacksonville. So the hope obviously here would be Travis Kelce would be back. That's kind of why Kansas City sitting -2.5 against the good Jacksonville team who won in week 1. But I do feel like this is good value on Kansas City. Their backs are against the wall. They need this win. If they fall to 0-2, the odds get really bad. They can still go on a run and make the playoffs for sure. But with Travis Kelce -2.5, I mean, Jacksonville beating Indianapolis, it's a decent win, but it doesn't wow me completely. So I will take Kansas City to win this game by 5 points, getting back on track. Next, we've got the Chargers going on the road at the Titans. The Titans, very low-scoring Week 1 game with Ryan Tannehill. You've got the Chargers sitting -3 on the road. Not a real big read onto this one because it does seem like the Titans are this weird team. No matter how good or bad they play, it's always a close game. I'm going to say the Chargers win by 3, but I do have the total hitting 43. I'm guessing the Chargers win it, though, very slightly. Next, we've got a pick'em. There are a few different sports books that have this game as Green Bay -1. It's either a pick'em or -1. Atlanta at home. So the issue with Atlanta, even after the Week 1 win, they just still cannot throw the football, and it's a big issue. And I think people are overrating Jordan Love's Week 1 performance if you actually look at the analytical data. He did what he needed to do. He's kind of a game manager right now, but it wasn't like he made 30 big-time throws here. It was a lot of short stuff, but still, I think Green Bay and their defense, they swarm Atlanta. I don't know what the Falcons are doing. Again, they just don't throw the ball. It's very hard for me to pick them right now, so Green Bay in a position to move to 2-0 against a very beatable Atlanta team. This is Atlanta's second straight home game and Green Bay's second straight road game, so you've got these teams starting on opposite sides, but I will take Green Bay to win that one outright. I like this also to be a lower scoring game. I did have Atlanta -3.5 in Week 1. They were able to cover against a rookie quarterback. It's going to be a little bit harder because Green Bay's defense is significantly better. Next, you have Seattle traveling to Detroit. Detroit sitting -6. A little bit surprised by this game overall. Detroit was -5.5. I'm surprised people bet it up. I understand Detroit beat Kansas City on the road. there were a lot of circumstances that were in that. I would pump the brakes on Detroit personally. And you've got a Seattle team. What a brutal week one loss that was. People are starting to wonder, is it a one-year wonder type deal for Geno Smith? That was a horrible performance. You were 5-point favorites at home. You got crushed. You didn't score. But in this one, I do love the over in it. And I do love, I guess, Seattle. It is an upset because they're +6 to win this game. This is a balanced game. You know, you've got Detroit. They get an upset win week one. They're due for a loss. You've got Seattle. They were favorites in week one. They lose. They're due for a win. Both these teams will be 1-1. I cannot trust Detroit to cover a 6-point spread right now against a decent Seattle team, although there are some question marks. I still think Geno Smith overall is a solid quarterback at this point in his career, and I'll take Seattle to finally get going on offense and win that game. Another 1 o'clock game, the battle of the rookie quarterbacks. You've got Indianapolis sitting -1 at Houston, and so when you look at both of these teams last week, it was a brutal spot for CJ Stroud on the road in Baltimore. This could be a fun game. It could be maybe a little bit higher scoring game for these rookie QBs. Anthony Richardson showed some things. Normally when it comes to rookies, the dual threat rookies have more success than the pocket passers. That's just kind of how it goes early on in the season for rookie QBs with no experience. And so I do have Anthony Richardson winning this game over CJ Stroud 24-17. I love CJ Stroud. I think he's going to have the better career. But in terms of this game, where both of these QBs are at, Anthony Richardson being able to use his legs to run and pick up those third downs, I think that he ends up winning this game and covering the 1-point spread there. Another 1 o'clock game. It is Chicago coming off that brutal loss, traveling to Raymond James Stadium to take on Baker Mayfield. You've got Tampa Bay sitting -3 in this one. The Buccaneers are 1-0, but I think this is another typical correction game. Justin Fields really wasn't that bad in week one. Everything went wrong for Chicago. This is very winnable on the road at Tampa Bay. Remember, this is a Tampa Bay team people were saying should tank. They're not very good. I understand they've got, some solid receivers. I'm not saying Baker's bad. I had them covering last week, but overall, I will take Chicago to win this game outright. Another balanced game. Chicago will move to 1-1. Tampa Bay will fall to 1-1. I still have faith in Chicago and Justin Fields here. I'm not going to write them off just yet. Now moving on to the 4 o'clock games, 4:05. It is the Giants sitting -4. And my goodness, what happened to the Giants? Everything went wrong with them. But this is tradition. You see a team get crushed week one. They come back. They cover the spread in week two. You're looking at an Arizona team. They're 1-0 against the spread. This team is horrible. I don't know how they covered it last week. Josh Dobbs threw for 130 yards on 30 pass attempts. They're just not going to be able to move the ball. So even though they're at home in this game, the Giants, you would think they would win this game relatively easy. -4 is a bit annoying because, obviously they win by a field goal. It's tough, but I think the Giants' defense swarms Arizona, and it's like, how can you bet on Josh Dobbs at this point? Even after they covered the spread again last week, it was just brutal on offense. So I think the Giants get back on track in a big way. The other 4:05 game is San Francisco traveling to take on the Rams. So San Francisco coming off a huge road win, and so are the Rams. So both of these teams sitting 1-0. Both of these teams blew out their opponents in week one. That is a large spread to me, sitting -8. Also, a ton of people in on the over in this game. The over-under was like 42.5 or something. I have San Francisco winning 27-22. You know what you're going to get with San Francisco. They've got a really good, game manager QB, Brock Purdy. Their defense is amazing. And then with the Rams, they're at home in this game. Sean McVay coaching. They should keep this close within 8, especially for their home opener there. So San Francisco wins this game. Moving on to the 4:25 games, you want to talk about, oh my goodness, Aaron Rodgers in his Jets career, 1 pass attempts, and he might be out for the season now. And this game has lost all of its luster. You have Dallas possibly sitting, I think I saw somewhere it was -8.5. It's very hard to find, a legitimate line for this game right now because we're trying to see what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson and the Jets coming back to win last night with their defense, utilizing that to turnovers against Josh Allen. But Dallas is going to be big favorites in this one. Dallas had a very strange week one game. because, you look, Tony Pollard had some touchdowns, but Dak Prescott, if you score 40 points, you would think the QB would throw 4 or 5 passing touchdowns. It really wasn't like that. The Cowboys utilizing defensive scores, utilizing the wet weather, and they win that game easily. But this game, unfortunately, this is like the big CBS game. It's completely lost everything with Zach Wilson starting at this point, the Aaron Rodgers injury. It's just horrible news for the NFL, and I will take Dallas. Kind of surprising high-scoring game because I do think Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson have some rapport, and maybe they score a touchdown late. Dak Prescott, though, gets on track here. You could say, well, why would Dallas score that much against the Jets team that has a good defense? I get it, but they're on the road. It's going to be a lot harder for them. Dak Prescott due for some passing touchdowns. I've got them winning this game by 9 points, but it's really a wait-and-see mode because who knows what happens there. It's very volatile with all the injuries. Next, you have the Commanders on the road at Denver. Denver sitting right now -3.5, the brutal week 1 loss. And the thing is with Denver, I told people, Denver's got to prove it to me. They really got to prove that they're different this year. They were -4 last week. I don't know why. They end up losing outright. And you've got a Commanders team. They won in week 1, although it was kind of a lackluster performance. They didn't even cover the spread against a bad Arizona team at home. Kind of a weird line. I'm really not a fan of 3.5. I will take Denver to win this game. I feel a lot better on the money line if you were going to do like a money line value parlay. Seems pretty obvious. This is a balance game, right? Denver improves to 1-1. The Commanders drop to 1-1. It'd be very surprising to see the Commanders move to 2-0, on the road in a 425 game. Denver has really good home field advantage. And the other thing to think about, Sam Howell was really not impressive, and it was a great opportunity week 1 against a bad Arizona team at home in front of a sellout crowd. Now you're going to Mile High. You're dealing with the thin air. I like Denver to win this game. Sam Howell really needs to start showing me some things. He's got time. I still like him, but the week 1 performance was a little lacking. Moving on to the 8:20 games, you do have Miami coming off of their offensive explosion on the road at New England. Miami sitting -2.5. The odds makers, a lot of faith in Bill Belichick. I mean, it wasn't terrible, in terms of the Patriots week 1 performance. They hung in there against Philadelphia. Mac Jones, after the first quarter, looked really good in terms of passing yards, even who he's throwing to. They really do not have a good receiver core there, but there's just got to be good. I know this is like, it's a trap game. Bill Belichick's going to win it at home. He lost last week. He's going to come back. Tua's going to come down to earth. I get all of that, but I just see way too much value in 2.5 points for a great offense like Miami. And we saw Tua last year, early in the season, play amazing. This year he's doing it again. Miami, Tyreek Hill, I think they get it done. They win this game possibly by 3, barely cover the spread. I do like the over in this game, though, because Mac Jones looked pretty good in week 1, and Tua and that offense looked very impressive. Moving on to the Monday night game, so this is very interesting how they're doing this. Now we have 2 Monday night games. You've got one at 7:15 and one at 8:15. So the idea is when the first game reaches halftime, the second game will be kicking off, I guess, or something like that. It's just crazy that they're doing this, but there's obviously a method to their madness. You've got New Orleans sitting -3 on the road at Carolina. And I've got this game. It's a hard one to read. I do have New Orleans winning it. I'm guessing it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I'm not exactly sure on the over-under. Derek Carr kind of looking underwhelming. Wasn't terrible in week 1. You've got a Carolina team with Bryce Young. Bryce Young was really bad last week, and I think he'll be slightly better. It's a rookie learning process. It is what it is, but that Carolina offense right now, not great. So I do think New Orleans wins. If I had to say a value play, I actually think there's value on Carolina +3 just based off the fact that it's their first home game. It's Monday night. It's a rookie quarterback who's probably going to be more, at this point with confidence being at home. Either way, I don't know. I'll take the under in it. And then the 8:15 game, the Browns have moved to -2. They opened as +1, and it's kind of annoying because I love the Browns in this game at Pittsburgh. I understand a lot of people find value in the Steelers +2 because, last week you don't want to overreact to it. It was a terrible performance. Pittsburgh came out. They were down 14-0 early. The Browns, on the other hand, They throttle the Bengals. Deshaun Watson really didn't look that good, but I think the Browns are going to be really good this season, so I've got them winning this game. I wouldn't say fairly easily, but maybe a late touchdown. They end up covering the 2-point spread. Pretty easy to cover a 2-point spread, even if you win by a field goal. And the Browns, this should be a game where Deshaun Watson plays better as long as the weather is better. Cam Hayward also, that's a huge injury for the Steelers. He's going to be out multiple weeks. So I do have the Browns winning that one. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.